What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday Summary. I am your host, Kyle. With me, as always, is Steve. Steve, today is going to be a very busy show. A lot of exciting things to talk about because it's that time of year again. I know it's your favorite time of year, the transfers, right? Frimpong, a release clause has reportedly been met. He's scheduled for a physical. We'll talk about that. We'll also look at Connor Bradley's new deal. Konate's contract stalling out. At least that's what's being reported. And also, could Liverpool be taking Florian Wirtz from Bayern Leverkusen as well? We'll talk about all of it. Steve, how you doing this morning, man?
Never been better. City lost the final yesterday. Shout out to Crystal Palace for keeping them trophyless for the year. You love to see that.
When was the last time they were trophyless?
Sheesh.
I'd have
I
to
don't
look
know.
that one up. They've seemed to have won something every year. But shout out to Crystal Palace. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No worries. Yeah, I would imagine there may be a year sprinkled in the last 8 where they didn't win something, but generally speaking, they're winning stuff every year. But not this year, Kyle.
Not this year. Oyvind dropping knowledge 9 years ago, bro. It was 9 years ago. I don't know. Oyvind had that just in his back pocket. I don't know how he knew that so quick.
He's been studying this.
Oh, what a legend.
What a legend.
Absolute legend, man. Dude, I just want to jump right into it because the Frimpong news moved fast. I know we've been linked with him for a while, but they say there's no smoke without fire. Frimpong, the release clause of 35 million is reported by Fabrizio to have been met, and it's legit. Barring any issues with the medical, Frimpong will be a Liverpool player. 5-year deal is what's being reported, about 100K a week. And I would like to know your initial thoughts about Frimpong, and then we can kind of delve into the Bradley news as well.
I think it's very exciting because it means we're in the market, we're making moves. We made this signing relatively early, so we know he's coming. He's going to have a full summer with us. And I think what's exciting about this is Liverpool are basically saying, okay, Trent's leaving. Let's find a player that's comparable. You're not going to replace him entirely because there's no right backs, as far as I'm concerned, in the history of the game that can pass like he can. Now, I'm not a football historian per se. I haven't been watching for the last 50 years, but I think it's a pretty safe bet to say he's probably number one or one of the best passing and distributing right backs of all time. Now, with Frimpong, he's probably if Trent's an A+, Frimpong's probably a B+, right?
Sure.
And I think what Liverpool has done here is they've kept it very simple. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's keep Bradley because he's an up-and-coming player. We've seen him in great form at times. Of course, he's battled injuries. But by bringing Frimpong in, you basically keep things business as usual, status quo. You're replacing Trent with a player that's very similar to Trent. And people will have things to say about his defensive stats. I have some of that up here on the screen that we can talk through. But it's very exciting. And for 35 million,
35, dude.
In this market, dude, it's a perfect Liverpool signing.
Yeah,
it's and in our wheelhouse.
What we've done is find these players that are super talented with release clauses, right? We did it with Konate, McAllister, now Frimpong. And I'm not going to claim I'm a Frimpong, cultist, right? Didn't really care about him at all. But we've signed this guy, and I think you hit the nail on the head with the balance, right? You have Connor Bradley, who's an all-around right back, still offers something going forward, but more defensively sound than Trent ever was. And now we have Frimpong, who seems to be more of an attacking style wingback, right? Looked at his stats earlier. He's basically like an 8-8 guy, 8 goals, 8 assists over the last 3 seasons at Leverkusen. So can definitely give you stuff going forward. And the value, really, I think the value is just ultimately what sticks out because the open market values him at about 60, Steve. And we're able to cut that nearly in half and bring him in. And he's only on 100K a week. That's what's reported as the terms that are agreed. Again, this, it could be off. It says in the region of 100,000 per week. And then Bradley's new contract is 75K a week. So you have virtually what Trent was making in 2 players. And I think overall we've nailed that position down. I think that position is all set for next season.
Yeah, and that's basically what I was getting at. Like, keep it simple, bring somebody in that replicates what Trent does to some extent, and move on. Move on to strengthening other positions and filling other gaps in the squad. Um, I think it's so funny that we always talk about Liverpool's like um, strategy for new signings and like
Sure.
that price window we like to say in that 30 to 40. And we've been talking about that for what feels like a decade. And we're
Yeah.
still making signings in that window, even
Still
as the
doing it.
market has damn near doubled since we've been doing the show. Prices for players have damn near doubled. We spent 50 million on Keita in what, 2018?
Yep.
Something like that. At that time, if it like fast forward to now, that's $100 million signing. The market has practically doubled. And before anybody butchers me in the chat, of course, not taking into account how Keita was a flop. Just generally speaking, guys like Enzo Fernandez, Keita, Casado, like he would have fallen in that same bucket for like 90 to 115 million.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still grabbing top European talent in our 30 to 40 million window. It's crazy.
I think it's crazy also. The market itself is absurd. We know that. But I also think the agents of these players know, all right, when we negotiate these contracts, we have to put a reasonable release clause in here because otherwise that's going to deter teams from coming in and getting my client, right? Frimpong, though a good player, right? It talked about right back. 60 million would have, if he doesn't have a release clause, that would have deterred us away, I think. I think we would have probably gone with a second option. So I think people are realizing that the market's a little crazy, right? Unless you're Chelsea, right? No one's going to spend X amount on certain players. So I like that we're going for the release clause. You know, I think that's a good thing that these players have in their contracts. And I just want to go over to the chat real quick, say good morning to everyone. Hannah, Oyvind, good morning. Tony, what's going on, Tony? Haven't seen you in a while. Kyle, David, Scottish Bear, Dustin, what's going on, everyone? Make sure you smash that like button. Thanks, everyone, for being here. And,
Let me point something out really quick, actually,
please,
if you don't mind. Just to put it into perspective for those in the chat so they can think about, Frimpong is a top talent in Europe. He's played in big games. He's won trophies. He's sought after by many clubs because of what he brings on the offensive side of the pitch, if you will. For 35 million, let me just read off a few signings that City have made for more than that price recently.
Ooh, I like this.
Marmoush, 75. Okay. Nico Gonzalez, 60. Kusanov, 40. Vitor Reis, center back from Palmeiras, 37. That's their last four signings are more expensive than Frimpong. So I only point that out. Like, those guys are probably going to be fine and they're not overly expensive. But the fact that we're still not overpaying for players nearly a decade after we started this kind of strategy is just amazing to me.
It is. And the fact that you can't, you know, we haven't folded. We haven't been like, you know, we have to pay this amount. It's like they're just dialed in. They're locked in. They're like, no, we're gonna stay in this range. We're gonna find release clauses. We're gonna, you know, work out deals to where we don't have to pay above, you know, 60. I feel like the only time we've done that, really, I think 3 times you could classify, probably Allison, Keita, and Darwin, right? Am I missing someone?
Well, so I actually don't count Allison and Virgil, because that was the Coutinho.
Virgil. So
the Coutinho
okay.
money went there. So
Sure.
I actually don't count them, but it would be Darwin. Keita's a little bit out of that range, but still nothing crazy.
Yeah, you're right. 54. So really, if we want to look at it out of that range, I feel like the threshold is 60. So you look at 60 as the threshold, it would become Allison, Verge, and then Darwin. Darwin, and you don't count those other two. So Darwin, the one time we go out of the range, right? It doesn't work out.
I know.
And that in itself is evidence like this strategy works. It's like you're taking a huge risk paying that amount for a player.
What did Darwin cost?
It was 69 and then up to 85 with the add-ons, and I don't know if we've reached all the add-ons yet.
Okay, because at the time I remember getting hammered by
It still gets
opposing
hammered.
fans for that signing. And it still gets hammered, and at this point, kind of rightfully so, because he hasn't worked out. Now, I've already done this. I'll put his numbers up against pretty much anybody else in the league aside from Holland, Salah. Probably that's it.
Son,
So
maybe.
yeah, so at the end of the and Kane when he was here, at the end of the day, he has not lived up to his potential. He's had so many bad moments, they've overshadowed the good, but the production to some extent was respectable. And like the numbers don't lie. You don't have to take my word for it, right? The numbers don't lie. We've gone over this. We've compared him to Saka. It's very similar. We've compared him to Firmino. It's very similar.
Yep.
But Marmoush, 75 million. Like, why isn't City getting hammered for that signing? Now, here's the thing. I wouldn't hammer them because I think 75 million for a striker that scores goals and is a hot talent in Europe is fair. Like, it's okay. But
Right.
I just remember getting absolutely butchered when we signed Darwin, and it doesn't seem like that's the case for other clubs when they make signings.
True, but you also have to look at how often do we buy strikers? Right?
I mean,
Pretty
often.
No. So think about it, right? So Darwin, yeah, left wing, he's only a striker. And you said it perfectly. If you're going out into the market and you're buying a striker, a center forward, someone who only scores goals, right? That is a high value player. You're paying a premium for that. So that's why Darwin costs what he would cost, right? But when you have a versatile player who isn't necessarily a goal scorer, right, that plays multiple positions across the front, you're going to be able to get them at a not a discount, but at a lower cost, right? Look at Gakpo, look at Jota, right? You could look at Diaz, for example. Salah might be an interesting one to talk about. We don't really have to look at that. I think the market was way different when we bought him. But also he was a right winger. People didn't look at Salah as not as him becoming this player. So that in itself was just a buy low situation where it was like, oh, we can get this player for that deal. That's awesome. But I think that's why Darwin costs so much. And that's why I think strikers in general cost so much. And ultimately, I think Liverpool know what they have in the attack, and where they need to strengthen is in defense, right? And now the priority becomes a left back. At least that's what's being reported. But in case those of you who are just joining us, Connor Bradley signed an extension as well. It is reported to be a 4-year deal for what I'm seeing, and it's about $75K a week. And it's funny, he was at $10,000K a week before, so it represents a 650% raise, if I'm not mistaken. It's a big raise, guys. 650%. When you think about it that way. But this will carry him until he's what, 26? Because how old is he now? 22? Let me see. He might be 21. 21. Okay, so his next contract will be his prime contract, the 5-year deal. Whatever he's going to get, he'll get. That might be the highest he'll get. So Bradley's locked down. He's staying. That's phenomenal. What I'm worried about, Steve, what's really stressing me out, and again, this could be the media just kind of playing on the Trent news and how the fans have reacted to it, but Konate has yet to extend his contract, and what's being reported is that they're actually stalling. There's no progress being made. That scares me a lot. They're saying it's comparable to the Madrid situation only because Madrid are interested in Konate. Now, Madrid just agreed terms with Huijsen or Huijsen, whatever the hell his name is. Heisenberg, okay? And he's going. So who in their right mind, not in their right mind, but I think I would lose it if we lost Konate on a free to Madrid. I think that would be the line for me. I think I'd be what are we doing? Like all this good stuff we've talked about this morning with the release clauses and finding deals and all that, that's great. What the hell's going on with extending players? Like, does this tell you that Konate wants to leave?
It's tough to say, but it doesn't look good. There's no good reports coming out. So that's
Right.
why I believe that there's an issue here, right? Sometimes you see conflicting reports and then you're like, all right, well, I don't know what to believe. The problem is we just went through this with Trent. We can't afford to wait. So I think it was Anfield Agenda I saw a clip from, and Craig was saying, because PSG's in the mix apparently,
Yes.
and he's French. And it's like, I would be okay letting him go there. I don't want to see him go, but if he's gonna go, I'd rather him go there than to Madrid. And like Craig was asked, if 55 to 60 million dollar offer comes in right now, would you take it with 1 year left on his deal? And Craig was saying he would. And I obviously Kanate's worth more than that. I would say he's a 75 to 85 million dollar player, but with 1 year left on his deal, there's not a ton of leverage that we have, and we can't drag this out. So like, do you sell him now and then just take those funds and grab somebody else that wants to be here? That's what I would start to think about doing. And I hate to say it because I wasn't prepared to have these conversations about Konate. I didn't know his contract was running down all year. We haven't talked about Konate. He's something
No.
we don't worry about. We just want to make sure he's fit because he's so
Yeah.
good. But like, if he's gonna go, you got to move him now.
Yeah. You
I
have
hate to
to.
say it, but like, we might need to prepare ourselves for Ibu Konate to leave in the next month.
That's scary to think about. We value him at 100. You can get 100 for him, but not with a year left on his contract. Konate is a player that any team would be happy to take because I think someone said it in here. City said nobody's really on the market. I kind of I don't feel like there is anyone really on the market. There's no like Højlund was like the big guy, right? I could see a PSG move. I think I could because of how well PSG have performed. He's French, like you said. That would be an enticing move for him. That's weird though, man. It's really odd that Konate, that you're hearing all these negative reports about it. You would think that Konate would want to extend. Um, it, is there any part of you that think it's slot related?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to ask that. For some reason, I just felt, inclined to ask that. I want to go to the chat. I want to see what everyone's saying about
I mean,
Konate.
what are you thinking? Like, he doesn't like the way
So,
he manages?
well, just, players that come in under Klopp and then a new manager comes in, you have that option of, do I like playing for this manager? Do I won't extend, right? It's not the club, it's the manager. I won't extend. I'll go somewhere else. That's just where my head goes.
Here's why I say no. Because nobody else wants to leave. Trent wanted to leave before Slot came in. That's what we're hearing. Nobody else wants to go. Salah wants to stay. McAllister wants to stay. Diaz is about to extend. Robertson wants to extend. I don't think the manager is an issue at all.
Okay.
If anything, it's brought in a breath of fresh air. I'm not saying he's better than Klopp, obviously, but it's change is good sometimes.
No, I
But if
agree with
Konate
you.
wants to leave, I would argue that he's probably the only one in that camp or in that boat that wants to leave. So I don't think it has anything to do with the manager. But I think this all happened very quick. Again, I wasn't even thinking about Konate come 10 days ago.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, shit, we may need to cash in now and then put that money directly back into the market. And people are saying, who's available, right? Did you just mention that?
Yeah, someone in the chat.
There's somebody. We can test resolve with players around Europe. You got Kwanzaa. The plan was to bring in another center back regardless. Maybe you need to buy two in this window. Because these other clubs, man, City just strengthened. Arsenal's about to splash cash.
Yes, they are.
They're about to drop coin, and Chelsea's about to do the same.
Yes.
Guaranteed.
And Chelsea there's back in the Champions League spot, right?
I feel like we got 6 spots this year. So who is it?
Yeah, that's funny. So Ross says Konate has a year left. The situation might change, or we could capitalize him in the summer and buy a new top central defender. I just need to do more research on who's available, like who's in the market. Um, oh, and yeah, my parents are in London. See, Steve, we're worldwide here, so promoting nothing but Reds. But um, my mother here says we have come across mostly Arsenal fans where we've been, but still promoting nothing but Reds. Did you hate them, Mom? Were they obnoxious? I'm genuinely curious because there's a difference between real fans and then the social media fans.
Well, they're not. I don't think they'd be obnoxious to your parents.
Oh, well, you never
but
know.
Maybe to us they would be.
Yeah, fair. Scottish here says Konate lost his place only the season before last. This has been Konate's best season health wise. Yes, health wise, absolutely.
Lost his place.
To who?
No, he was playing in the Champions League, and
Kwanzaa.
Matip was the league guy.
Yep.
This is what he's talking about. Lost his place only the season before last. So it was 2 years ago. Matip was the Premier League guy. Konate was playing in the Champions League games with a little bit of rotation. I wouldn't say that he lost his spot, but Matip was just an unbelievable form.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And
that season was crazy.
No, yes, no doubt. Matip, like we were talking about extending him for a year. But then he tore his ACL at the end of the year. And that really sucked. That was. But Kwanzaa had an incredible year last year. So much so that, I know Konate was coming back from international duty. I think that was the reason Kwanzaa was starting over him initially. And then we all know what happened there. But last year, if you would have asked our center backs, I mean, obviously you'd put Konate at number 2, but Kwanzaa was right there. This season, man, in my head, it seems like we have 2 center backs, Van Dijk and Konate. I forgot about Kwanzaa. Forgot about Joe Gomez. Right? Aside from that, who is there?
Escapado 007 says, tapped up by Real. Clearly sell him, and if he won't go, dump him in reserves and he can kiss goodbye to World Cup next year. I do kind of love this mindset because it's like, we just went through this. Let's not deal with this again. If you want to be a headache, like you can just rot on the bench. We would never do that though. And what would happen is we'd lose the game or two and it would look sketchy at the back and we'd be crying for Konate to come back in. So as much as I do love this thought process, it would never happen.
It's such a cynical way to go about it too. Like, oh, you want to go to another club? You're going to rot on the bench. It's
and like kiss the World Cup goodbye. That's the big piece here.
Yeah.
Like if you don't play in the World Cup.
Yeah. That's a good point.
That would be hilarious.
It would, but we absolutely need him. David says Robertson will be sold when we get a new left back. Kwanzaa will be sold. Well, that must mean that there's a ton of left or center backs out there in the market, or our academy is just overflowing with talent, which I don't think there is. I mean, I'm leaning towards Konate stays another year, and then he leaves on a free again, and he goes to Madrid or PSG. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. James, you pulled it up. James LFC, offer Konate $200K a week. If he says no, then sell him. Nobody is bigger than our club.
I would agree.
That's a good offer.
That's a great offer.
Not
to mention what you were going to pay Trent is no longer an issue.
Yeah.
You replaced him for a player that's worth half. You can afford to up your offer to Konate a bit. And I mean, if he doesn't accept that, like, dude, Virgil van Dijk at the top of the world was making less than 200. Then he got to like 200 and then 220, whatever. For a while there, he was the best center back ever. And was not making 200. So let's breathe for a minute. And also, nothing's saying that when you go to Madrid these days, you're going to make more. Trent's making less.
I know, but doesn't that piss you off a little more?
They do it with signing bonuses.
It's a huge 20 million signing bonus. Yes. Yeah. But even so, it's just kind of like,
I mean, Konate's not getting that. Konate's not as big of a draw as Trent.
No.
He's not going to sell kits like Trent. Like, kids aren't growing up wanting to be Ibu Konate like they are like Trent. You know what I mean? It's different. It's marketability.
You're absolutely right. Another thing I saw this week too was more so the thought process of Madrid fans bringing in Trent, right? Because you do have Danny Carvajal coming back, which I've you and I talked about this a while back, but how Danny Carvajal was in the Ballon d'Or conversation, and just because his team won and stuff. What I'm seeing, at least in this one thread I was in, is Madrid fans are kind of like, we need Trent? Like, why is Trent coming in?
Because Carvajal's 33 and coming off an ACL.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point.
That said, like, he is going to get minutes. Like, Carvajal will play. And if he's in good form, I mean, it's Alonso now. It's not Ancelotti. But I feel like Ancelotti would play him if Carvajal was in good form. But it's going to be Alonso now. So who knows what sort of loyalty he'll have to Trent, because he's not a big money signing, but a big name. But Carvajal's also been there for a while and very experienced, more stable at the back.
I haven't seen this, but I'm seeing a bunch of people comment on it now. Have you seen Trent's first cousin liking comments referencing slurs about Hillsborough? It's probably taken out of context, guys. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think the guy goes to Madrid and then all of a sudden he hates Liverpool. I don't think that's what's happening. Dude, I do think there's a little bit of a... He kind of went about the whole situation a little bit shitty, to a certain extent. And I've seen people compare it to Firmino leaving, right? Why were Liverpool fans so loving of Firmino when he left versus Trent, and they left in the same capacity and all that? They did not leave in the same capacity. Firmino was coming to an age where he was older and he wasn't starting consistently, and you had other players who were better, quote unquote, better than him. And the only reason he would have extended would to be a depth piece. So it made more sense. We were like, we understood, all right, he's not extending, he's going to go somewhere else. We get it, right? We love you. You've done everything for the club, but it's time. It's time for you to go. And that's different. Trent's in the prime of his career. We wanted to extend him. And he's keeping his mouth shut for the last year about the extension. He's not going to play it out in the media. And with all these links to Madrid, and he comes out with a video saying it's time for me to go and all that. Very, 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 very different. I want to get your thoughts on that, because I don't know if you saw that comparison.
I did. Firmino's not in his prime. Like, it's not even a similar situation.
That's what I'm saying. And I think rival fans are trying to compare it.
They are, because they want something to compare it to feel better about being salty about Trent leaving. If you want to be mad about Trent leaving, please do. I'm not happy about it, but like, honestly, the more life and time we give it, the worse it becomes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I just, like, you mentioned before the show, like the $2 million that Madrid might offer to let him come early. Yes. Just let him go. Let him go.
No, hell no. Get the $2 million.
Dude, yeah, get the $2 million.
Pocket the $2 million.
You can buy players with that. You can buy young players with that. How much does Harvey Elliott cost?
I don't know. Bring Ben Davies back, bro. You could probably get him for like 1.2.
Dude, seriously.
We're going to need defenders. What's Clavin going for?
Dude.
Oh, my God. Trent also planned it for over a year and tried to start stuff with Slot start of the year. He thought we were going through a transition and the excuses were being planned.
Harvey Elliott costs 1.7 mil.
Oh, that's... I don't think that's true.
It is.
From Fulham?
Mm-hmm. 1.7 mil. We immediately loan. Yeah, 1.7 mil. He was 16.
Okay, I feel like it was... Okay, I'll take your word for it, because I can't remember. I I remember 1.7 being like Ben Davies numbers.
Both.
Yeah. Ross says, I think it's a huge shame that many people have forgotten all Trent has done. Whatever happened to supporting our players until they leave?
We have supported him.
We have
until
supported him.
Now he's leaving. So the support can end. Based on your comment, Ross, like he was supported this whole time. Even when he scored that goal a few weeks ago, people love Trent.
And
we were just it's the uncertainty that kills us. And you think about Trent's probably thinking to himself, "Oh, I'm not going to let this play out in the media. This is the right way to go about it." But like at the end of the day, like when Jurgen told us he was leaving, it hurt, but he didn't get bashed like this. He told us early. He was very honest and open. He came out. He spoke about it. And at the time, it felt weird because it's like, man, the middle of the season, like, dude, am I even glad that you told us? But looking back, it's like, that was a good move.
Yes, it absolutely was. And you're right. At the time, it wasn't hate. It was, why would he say it during the middle of the season when we're in a title race? You know, like, how is this going to affect morale and all of that? And looking back now, it makes sense because if at the end of the year, you know, he would have come on the microphone and said it, you'd be like, what? Like, I don't know. I think it would have been much different, given us that time to digest that information. And I think everyone's kind of saying this, but the ultimate difference is when Firmino left, when Genie left. I don't know if Genie, I can't even remember. It wasn't that big of a deal, but Klopp leaving, they're not linked with other clubs, right? They're not discussing anything with other clubs. I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, they let the contract run out, and then once it was done, they negotiated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, one that I do want to ask you about was Mane. Okay, Mane, he did not leave on a free, right? He had one more year.
I think he went for like 30 million.
Right. Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't want to speak out of turn. So he went for 30 million. Why haven't we reacted the same way? Because at the
he's not a Scouser.
Is that the difference?
Mm-hmm. And he wasn't entering his prime. His prime was over.
Yeah, I think that's the difference, man.
It's all about age and thinking about the future. And Mane said at the end of the season, you'll have an update. He said that,
that's what he
towards
said.
the end. That didn't make it any better, but that was like kind of our sign that he was leaving. Because if you're staying, the news breaks that you're staying. It's not like you make us wait to tell us you're staying. Like, you know what I mean? The extension gets signed. We hear about it in the news. Liverpool posts a picture of you with pen to paper, and we move on.
Yep.
We forget about any contractual talk. But when Mane said, you'll find out at the end of the year, it's like, okay, he's leaving. And also, again, he was like 29. So like 30, whatever he was, like, who cares? We had already brought in Diaz, Nunez, maybe even Gakpo at that time. Like, we weren't thin at left wing, like, at all.
Right. And of course, it never really amounted to anything, but there was the drama with him and Salah. But that wasn't a big thing. I think everyone liked Mane. I just wanted to bring that situation up because I couldn't remember if he had 1 year left or if he left on a free, but I do remember the 30 million. Shout out to Alexi. Yeah, 100 plus of us in here. Make sure you smash that like button, guys. Transfers are always the most exciting time of the year, man. Also, we don't really hate Bayern Munich. That's a good point.
I would be comfortable selling anybody to Bayern. Like, whatever.
Agreed. 100%. I
feel like see you in the Champions League, but
yeah,
maybe
aside from that, no, whatever. See you later. You know?
And that's why I'm okay with Ibu going to PSG. If they want him and he wants to go home and they're going to give him crazy wages and he's only got a year left on his deal and he doesn't want to extend, cash in now. Now's the time. Yeah. Because what's happened is this Trent thing, the Virgil, the Mohamed Salah thing, it overshadowed a lot of this season. Like, let's not forget about it. Liverpool was in first place. We're thinking about winning the league. That's obviously like top of our minds. But for me, at least, a close second was these contract sagas. Yeah. It's really tough to feel really, really good about the success you're having today if the future is uncertain, as far as I'm concerned. Because I don't want to just win the league this year. I want to know that we're going to go in as favorites and be even stronger next year. And for a long part of this campaign, that was not the case. We did not know what was going to happen.
That's a great point. You can't enjoy the present when you're stressed about the future. Absolutely. That's a good point. I think Dustin, I read this comment when you were talking. You can compare it to Coutinho. I didn't understand his mindset, but it was a good move for us. I think this is another why when you think of Coutinho and Trent, you might kind of feel similar because they were both in their prime, whereas when other players left, they weren't. I think that's one of the main things. It almost I think as fans we take it personally. Like why are you leaving us in your prime? What is it? What is wrong with me? That kind of thing. Whereas if someone's on the back end of their career, it's like, I get it, you know? So I think that's also, and when you take something personally, I think I don't know, you resent that. You resent that decision. And then, I don't know, man, Trent's attitude about the whole thing has just always kind of bothered me. It's not that he's a bad guy, but he's just, I don't know, his attitude has just been, the older he gets, he kind of comes off, at least on the pitch, as arrogant in a way. But maybe I'm reading too much into that. I
don't think there's any perfect way to act if you're in a position like Trent. Like, it's a lose-lose for him, but you could soften the blow a little bit by doing things a little bit differently. Just like, again, in hindsight, it's always easier to say. And like, who knows what was going through his head? Maybe he hadn't made a decision. But based on all the reports that are coming out now, he had been planning this for a while.
Yeah.
So why not just like tell the club, like, hey, my goal is to leave. If you want to extend me and then sell me, fine. If you want to sell me now, fine. But that's a huge chunk of revenue. There was a time, I mean, I would argue, and I could look this up and figure it out, Trent's highest market value was higher than any player we've ever had.
Yeah. But again,
that is probably fact.
Probably. But again, I need everyone to understand, if Madrid came to him, if he had plans to go to Madrid, but Madrid said, we will not come in and pay 100 million for you. You have to come on our terms. That's ultimately where this panned out. He couldn't have gone to Liverpool and said, hey, sign me to an extension and then sell me. It couldn't have happened because then Trent doesn't get what he wants. And I'd like to think that tore him up, right? Because that's probably what he wanted to do. Any sane person who cared about Liverpool Football Club, which I know Trent does, would have done that. Like, hey, I want to get you guys some revenue, but Madrid aren't going to come in for me if you sign me to an extension and then are saying we want 150 million for him. They wouldn't have done it. And so I think he was like, look, I have to do this. I have to let my contract run out. And he'll never say that, but that's fact.
Looking at market values. Now, Salah had a higher market value at one point. And probably Mane, but Trent would be third, as far as I know.
Yeah. Yeah, Mane for a while was just unbelievable. But yeah, we can move on from Trent. I want to talk a little bit about Florian Wirtz as well, because that's another player we're being linked with heavily. And they've sped up over the last 48 hours or so because apparently he's rejected, or maybe I might be mixing these two up. I don't want to speak out of turn yet.
As far as I know, he came to England to visit with us.
Yes, that's what it was.
It may have been David O'Connell or Ornstein that said he did not come here to visit with City.
That's what okay, I'm glad you said that because I didn't know if that was Frimpong or him. But the latest report I saw is Leverkusen value him at 126 million. First off, if we sign him, Elliott's gone. Elliott's already at Newcastle, as far as I'm concerned. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. And you could probably get 50 million for Elliott. I think that's probably fair value, right?
I think you could probably get like 35 to 50. Sure.
Okay, okay. Let's say
I think his
let's
market value is 35.
okay,
Newcastle have plenty of money though, so like I don't know if they're
fair.
going to nickel and dime to try to chisel that down. But yeah, dude, think about it this way. Let's say we agree on 115 for Verts, right? We'll probably negotiate. Maybe let's call it 120. Harvey goes for 30. Harvey goes for 40. The net spend there is 80. Like you can think about it like that.
Sure.
80, 80 for Florian Wirtz. Like,
See, that's
I'm
the
okay
thing.
with that, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically Soboslai, like the price. I mean, you can kind of look at it how you want. Um, but I know you love Elliott, which is why I kind of want to, get your thoughts on, is that the only option, or is there a world where we keep Elliott and sign Florian Wirtz?
Well, I think financially we can afford Verts. My only I mean, that Casado money's still there. We haven't spent any money. We spent like 10 million, 12 million on um what's his face?
Darwin?
No, Chiesa. Jeez.
Oh,
Chiesa.
he's going to
That's like
Napoli too.
that's all we've spent. So like we still have money. We're getting bonuses for winning the league and whatever we've done this year, we can afford Verts. My concern is, and I think a lot of folks would agree, let me know in the chat what you guys think about this. If we splash this large amount on Florian, what are we going to do in the striker market? Like, are we going to then turn around and spend 75 to 100 on a striker as well? Because I would rather put that money towards Isak, if I'm being honest, and just keep Elliott. Our midfield was not a problem this year.
No.
Now, Florian is an upgrade. There's no doubt. He is a top talent, and I think you could get him for a decent wage as well. Like I don't think he's one of those guys that's going to go around Europe and demand 400, 500K. There's no way. I think you can get him in that 200 range. 200 per week.
Mm-hmm.
If signing him means we're not going to spend big on a striker, a lethal striker, especially considering that Darwin is definitely out the door, then I would say I don't want Verts. Of course, I want him, but if that means we're not getting a lethal striker, then no, thank you.
So would you be okay then with Darwin being out the door and not signing a striker and selling Darwin? So
No.
we have to sign someone.
Both is ideal, a striker and
Right.
Verts. But if it's got to be one or the other, I need a lethal striker. I think we can all agree on that.
Right. This is what I was talking about earlier. Real Madrid fans don't even like Trent. This is what I was talking about earlier. I just wanted to bring that back up. So City here says maybe we can't get Isaac and we don't rate anybody else. And Yo Cool says no chance Newcastle will sell Isaac. Dude, I think Isak rejected their latest contract offer, is what I heard. So in a crazy turn of events, if Liverpool somehow get Isak on a free, which I don't think, he's got 2 years left, doesn't he? He just signed for them.
I don't know, but they certainly don't need the money. So they're not dying to sell. Guaranteed. Him or Gordon. They want to, after the club investment, the new ownership, they want to turn that into a European staple and they want to fight for titles in the league. They don't want to be viewed as like a farming club anymore, where a player reaches a certain caliber and then they get sold. They don't want to do that. But at the end of the day, it's like these players don't want to stay here because even though you've purchased this club and you have so much money, who have you really brought in? Like Tonali?
We talked about this 2 weeks ago. But by the way, his contract runs till 2028, so we'd have to pay a lot to get him. But people thought that Newcastle were just going to be able to attract like the Victor Osimhen's of the world and the, David Alaba and I don't know. I'm trying to think of some other like big names that were coming up on their end of their contract at the time Newcastle got purchased, but you still have to build up that reputation. And I feel like, oh, that's a great shout. Julian Alvarez. That's a great shout.
Yeah, we haven't talked about him in a few weeks.
Yeah. But what was I saying? You have to build up that reputation. So I feel like Isak, Tonali, They did go out. They got, you're going to laugh when I say this, but like Dan Byrne, like those kinds of players at the time were pretty good signings. Like Nick Pope, one of the top goalkeepers at the time. Like I feel like Newcastle, they're doing all they can, right? You can
Harvey
have all the,
Barnes.
yes, Harvey Barnes, another good example, right? Anthony Gordon, right? And Sandra Tonali, of course, Guimaraes or whatever. That was a big one. So they are signing the big players that they can. They're not going to get Mbappe, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not going to happen.
No huge name is going there.
Right.
And it's going to take a while for them to, like, they're not part of the big six, if that's even a thing anymore. But like, that's where players want to go.
Sure.
That's where huge names want to go. A huge name would rather go to United, even if they're finishing 16th in the league, then they would want to go to Newcastle. It's just the way it works.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, I know why, but I don't know why at the same time. I want to go back to the Julian Alvarez thing because this is absolutely right. This deal makes way more sense than Isak. Even if we want Isak, 3 years left on his deal, it does not make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. What makes sense is you send Darwin Nunez to Atletico Madrid. That makes sense. You get Julian Alvarez. That makes sense. It saves you money, right? You fill the void at striker that would be there if Darwin is sold. And you can get Florian Wirtz, and you have two outgoings, right? You have Darwin, and then I think Elliott would go. So then there is a possibility. There is a world, Steve, where this summer we just drop like 200K, 200 million, 250, just buku bucks. I'm telling you.
And it's not gonna sting that bad because we're going to sell as well.
And not only that, we just won the league, bro. We basically got, I think the figure I saw was like 180 million for winning the league. Right? That covers it. Liverpool are all about net zero, right? Let's sell to buy. And if that's still the case, there you go. You win the league, right? You're selling Darwin. You're selling Elliott. Trent just left, so you don't have to worry about him in the wage, right? And then Van Dijk, Salah just extended, right? But there is a world where Liverpool spent 200 million this summer and don't bat an eye because of how much money they've made from winning the Premier League and then the money they'll accumulate from outgoings. I don't think there's a world where you spend 100 plus million on Isak, 100 plus million on Florian Wirtz, and bring in Frimpong and bring in Kirkez. To me, that world doesn't exist. I think Julian Alvarez is a great shout from David. I mean, I completely forgot about him. So, wow. Yeah, really good. Ross, imagine if we upgrade Nunez with Alvarez and Elliott with Wirtz if all things are possible. And this is what I was just saying. The Wirtz thing has kind of caught me off guard because I was so in the camp that Florian Wirtz is tried and true Bayern Munich. But Steven and I were talking before the show, and it makes sense. Florian Wirtz has already beat Bayern Munich in the league, right? These players in Germany aren't second fiddle to Bayern Munich, at least Leverkusen, not anymore. And I feel like a lot of times players in Germany who like playing in Germany, you always hit the wrong one, who like playing in Germany, I'm talking about what you said before the show. If they've then they look up to Bayern Munich, they're like, all right, that's the next step up. And I don't think Florian Wirtz, this probably isn't the case anymore because of the success that Leverkusen have had recently. So that move to Liverpool might be more enticing. Maybe he views Munich as almost a lateral move. And I think at first, I'm like, yeah, we're not getting, I gave up on Wirtz like 2 years ago. I was like, yeah, we're not getting Florian Wirtz. He's going to Bayern. And then you see these reports that he comes to London and he met with representatives and it's not City. You're like, this shit might happen.
Dude, it's real. It's real. When you have a player of his caliber, that's people are calling him a generational talent. Even if the club or the squad doesn't need that position filled, there's an opportunity to get him. The player wants to come. It's something you explore for sure. And then back to the Bayern piece. Wirtz is only 22. He just turned 22.
It's
So he could sign a
crazy.
5-year deal with us and then end up at Bayern when he's 27. If he wants to live that, I mean, he's German, right? If he wants to be the German player that plays for Bayern Munich, it doesn't have to be right now. He could go there after a contract with another club, and hopefully it's Liverpool.
Yeah.
He could sign a 5-year deal right now, and then when he is freshly 27, he turns 27 in May of whatever 5 years from now is,
So
2030.
he's freshly 22 or he's about to be
Freshly
23?
22. He just turned 22 last week.
That's awesome.
So he would be a fresh 27, and he could go to Bayern and play there till he's 34.
Or Madrid. He pulls a Tony Cruz, right? Like the options are endless. But again, we'd probably 5 years from now, we'd be back in the same boat of why didn't he extend? He's in his prime. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing. When you look at City nowadays, it's almost like, with the exception of Holland, you look at that club now, and I've mentioned this many times, it's not the same club that it was before, right? Like, not just because they struggled this year, but when you look around the lineup, like, there's a lot of new faces there. And with that, it's not like you get to say to yourself, oh, I get to go play next to, I don't know, Kyle Walker, Kevin De Bruyne, um, uh, who else? Kyle, help me out.
From City?
Yeah, just like the big names that carried them to all these trophies. A lot of them are gone. They're at the tail
Rodrigo.
end of their career. And it's like, it's just not the same draw anymore. That coupled with the charges, the fact that they didn't play well this year, they looked very, very pedestrian this year.
Yeah.
It's not as big of a draw. Now they'll pay you more, but like, I think Wirtz is one of those players where he knows that he's a generational talent. He conceivably could go anywhere that he wants. I just don't think City's that big of a draw anymore. And I don't think he has the ego that Holland has, where it's like, oh, like, I'll go wherever I want, I'll make whatever I want, I'll break all these records.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's a little bit more even keeled, based on from what I can tell, than somebody like Holland.
Yeah, and I'm going to do way more research into this now, and we'll probably get more updates as the day goes on, really. I think this is an interesting thing. I think Pep and Klopp wore each other out. It does seem like they were just head to head for so long, and then right after Klopp leaves, doesn't it seem like City just kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit? Just kind of like took a deep breath, and they're like, all right, we don't have to put up 99 points anymore, right? But then that didn't really pan out for him because of how well Slot did. But I think City are at the end of an era. I don't know where Pep's going to go. I don't know if he's going to stay, but I do feel there's a transitional period here right now with City, and it's very big. And it's going to make or break them because the core that they've had, I mean, getting in Pep, getting De Bruyne, right? Signing Rodri, I thought they were going to fall off when Victor Company left, but they kept it. I mean, Ederson and, Diaz and all these people that you were talking about, they were just a great team. But you're right, they don't have the same draw anymore. But everything's cyclical. Maybe a couple years' time, City are the big name again. People want to go to City. Who knows? Maybe it's Newcastle in a couple years' time. Man City spent 150 million in January. That's what Steve was talking about earlier with all the players that they brought in.
And as far as I'm concerned, they don't have much to show for it. They didn't get any better. And the players that they signed, like, you can have those guys.
Yeah.
Sorry. Marmouche, great player. But, like, I don't know. He's got 6 goals, maybe 6 league goals.
Mm-hmm.
in
Give
like
him time.
16, 17 appearances.
Give him time. You
Yeah,
know?
I mean everything takes time, but it's just not the same draw.
No.
When you could think to yourself, all right, I'm gonna go there and line up next to Sterling, Aguero, Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Kyle Walker, Ruben Dias, Ederson. Like that seemed probably really fun and really exciting.
That's a squad.
Yeah, but now you're like Kovacic, Kusanov, Foden, who's not the same player.
Yeah, what happened with Foden?
You're like Savino. You're like
Yeah.
Doku. Like, do I really
Doku.
want to go there? And like, what about these charges? It doesn't make sense.
I think the charges are playing a big role. I think there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding it, and I don't think players and agents are willing to take that risk, or at least I wouldn't want to. Um, that's kind of where I'm at. But we talked about Frimpong coming in. We've kind of delved into Trent. We've talked about a lot on today's show. Today's show has been very good, and shout out to everyone who's been here throughout the whole show. But Frimpong's should be announced here soon. We're just waiting on the medical. 35 million release clause. Bradley's new deal, that's very good. We got right back locked down for at least the next 4 or 5 seasons. The big question marks are Konate, right? Konate left back still. And then what's going to happen with Darwin Nunez and really not the midfield, but just these links with Florian Wirtz? Do we have to get rid of someone? If so, who is it? It's likely Elliott. All of this will be discussed next week as the transfer window unfolds even further. And Steve, as always, what are your closing thoughts?
I think we covered a lot today, which is nice. Nice to not have to talk about the table anymore,
Oh, it's so great.
right? Start thinking ahead to like some fresh incoming signings, trim the fat on the squad. It's exciting, man. Like, I feel like this first signing with Frimpong like breaks the ice, and it's like, all right, we mean business.
Yep.
Resign as soon as Trent breaks the news that Frimpong deal is done within 10 days. Bradley's extended within 10 days. I love it.
Yeah.
It's like this is the club's reaction. I think we play tomorrow, and then there's one more match. So let's celebrate this and then enjoy a nice break for the players and see who we can bring in, man. I'm excited for next season already.
We might lose 10-0 tomorrow.
Who are we playing? Newcastle?
I don't even know. But these boys are hung over.
Yeah,
bro.
They don't have much.
It's just crazy. There's no chance Trent plays for the rest of the season, by the way, either. But I think I echo your sentiment regarding Frimpong and the right back. Lock everyone down. The club means business. As much as people want to say release clause FC at it again, look at the evidence, guys. Look at who we've brought in for release clauses. Look at how much we've paid for players, and look at the outcome. We just won the Premier League. How stupid do you look complaining about what we're paying for players when we just won the Premier League? I mean, the argument doesn't make sense. Absolutely love it. We play Brighton. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But Steve, appreciate you being here. Shout out to all of our channel members as well and all of our subscribers, everyone here this morning. Over 140 people at the peak. Love you guys. And until next week, Reds, take care.